The golden light of morning spilled through the tall windows of the Hamilton estate, casting warm beams across the polished floors and the grand piano that had long gone untouched. The mansion stood silent except for the faint hum of the city beyond its iron gates. Inside, amid all the luxury, there was a man whose heart had grown colder than the marble floors beneath his feet. Ethan Hamilton, a self-made billionaire, had everything the world could offer: wealth, status, power, but lately, something had been gnawing at him. He didn't trust anyone. Years of betrayal in business and heartbreak in life had turned him into a man who believed kindness was just another mask people wore to get what they wanted. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the beauty of humanity that still exists somewhere deep inside us, pause for a moment and like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your small action spreads the light this world needs. Ethan's latest obsession was testing loyalty. He had started doubting even those who worked under his roof. Among them was a young maid named Lily, quiet, reserved, always keeping her eyes down and her words few. She had been working for Ethan for nearly a year, never late, never careless, and always polite. But one thing about her intrigued him. Despite earning very little, she often sent most of her paycheck away, leaving herself with barely enough to live on. He had overheard one of the staff saying she was supporting a sick mother in a small town hours away. Ethan didn't believe it. He thought it was just another sob story, another way to win sympathy. One afternoon, when the sunlight poured gently into his study, Ethan decided to test her. He arranged for a large amount of cash, thousands in neat bundles, on the wooden table beside an open ledger. He sat down on the couch, pretending to read, and soon rested his head back, closing his eyes as if drifting into sleep. He wanted to see what she would do when she thought no one was watching. The soft sound of footsteps entered the room. Lily, dressed in her plain gray uniform, came in with her cleaning tray, humming faintly under her breath, a tune he didn't recognize. She stopped suddenly when she saw him lying there, motionless. Her eyes widened when she noticed the money. For a moment, she froze, glancing at the door as though debating whether to leave. But something held her there. She took a slow breath and stepped closer. Ethan, behind his closed eyes, was fully awake, his heart steady and calculating. He had seen enough people pretend to be honest until temptation stood in front of them. The air was thick with silence, only the ticking of the clock marking time as she reached the table. Ethan expected to hear the faint rustle of cash being slipped away. But instead, he heard something entirely different, a soft sigh, almost trembling. Lily gently touched one of the bundles, then pulled her hand back as if it burned her. She whispered softly, though Ethan couldn't make out the words. After a long pause, she took out a small piece of paper from her pocket. With careful hands, she wrote something on it, folded it, and tucked it beneath the top bundle of money. Then, to his surprise, she stepped back, looked toward him, and said quietly, "God bless you, sir," before leaving the room. Ethan waited until her footsteps faded before opening his eyes. He sat up quickly and grabbed the note. In her neat, slightly shaky handwriting, it read, "Sir, you dropped this money yesterday. I didn't want anyone else to find it and get into trouble. I've placed it here for you safely. Thank you for giving me this job, it saved my mother's life." Something inside him broke. He stared at the note, his throat tightening in a way he hadn't felt in years. He leaned back on the couch, the morning sun now too bright for his eyes. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt small, smaller than all his wealth, smaller than his pride. He thought of all the people he had doubted, all the good he had brushed aside because of his bitterness. And then, almost involuntarily, a memory returned, the last words his father had told him before passing away: "Money can build walls, son. But kindness builds bridges." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking of Lily's quiet strength, her honesty, her dignity in poverty. He looked her up in the employee records and found the truth. Every month, nearly 80% of her salary was sent to a hospital in a small town, paying for her mother's treatment. The hospital reports confirmed it. She hadn't lied, not once. In fact, she had never even asked for a raise. The next morning, as sunlight once again poured through the same window, Ethan called her into the study. Lily walked in nervously, unsure if she had done something wrong. Ethan looked at her differently now, not as an employee, but as a human being who had just reminded him what integrity truly looked like. He wanted to say something profound, to thank her for teaching him what no business deal ever had. but words didn't come easily to him. Instead, he handed her an envelope. Inside was a new employment contract, tripling her salary, along with a note written in his own handwriting, "For your mother's treatment, and for reminding me that good people still exist." Lily's eyes filled with tears as she tried to speak, but Ethan simply nodded, his voice calm yet heavy with emotion. "No need to thank me," he said softly. "You've already done more for me than you'll ever know." That day changed Ethan Hamilton. Slowly, he began reconnecting with life in ways he hadn't before. He visited charities quietly, supported employees in need, and even set up a foundation to help single mothers afford medical care. The mansion that once felt like a fortress of loneliness became a place where laughter and purpose began to return. And Lily? She continued to work there for several more years, not out of necessity, but loyalty. Over time, her mother recovered, and whenever guests visited the estate, they always noticed something remarkable about the place. It wasn't the luxury or the wealth, it was the sense of peace, of warmth, that seemed to linger in the air. Because one act of honesty had awakened a man's lost faith in humanity. Sometimes, it takes just one moment, one choice made in silence, to change another person's world completely. Ethan had spent his life believing trust was weakness, but that single note on a table full of money taught him that true strength lies in goodness. If this story touched your heart, even a little, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Help spread stories that remind the world of humanity, compassion, and the quiet power of doing the right thing. Special request, in the comments below, write one word that defines kindness for you. Let's fill the section with light. And as the morning sun shone once again through the Hamilton mansion windows, Ethan looked out into the day with something he hadn't felt in years, a calm smile. Because now, he finally understood, wealth could fill a house, but only kindness could make it a home. In front of the entire board, the icy CEO who once mocked him now looked small, humbled, and painfully aware of her own cruelty. She tried to speak, to salvage her dignity, but no explanation could justify the person she had been. Ethan continued outlining his plans: humane leadership training, culture rebuilding, and a complete restructuring of management behavior. For the first time in years, the boardroom felt filled not with fear, but with the possibility of change. As the meeting ended, Victoria approached him, her voice trembling. "Please, can we meet privately? I need a chance to explain myself." Ethan paused, then shook his head gently. "What matters isn't how you treat people you value. It's how you treat people when you think they can't offer you anything." He turned away, leaving her with the weight of her own actions. And sometimes, that weight is the beginning of transformation. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread for more inspiring stories that remind us what compassion truly means. Before we end, tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Ethan's place?